In this video, we'll be going over the Magicka Dragonknight's DPS rotation for single target. In AoE, again, like most other classes, we don't have a true rotation. We have a few options that are pointed out in the written guide that you can look through that go between either spamming Dark Talons or heavy attacking. So your bars are going to look a lot different. You're going to want to look through that sort of information. And in terms of AoE DPS, it's pretty much place down your ground dots, which are going to be things like Wall of Blockade or Blockade of Storms, an Eruption, maybe Trap Beast if you're running that for the minor force, and then using Dark Talons or Burning Talons, and then or heavy attacking with Molten Armaments with a Lightning Staff. So those are pretty much the only things you're going to be doing in AoE. Maybe doing Engulfing Flames if you're doing a lot of flame damage, and then dropping your ultimate like Fiery Rage, Shooting Star, or Banner. But in single target, we have a very, very robust rotation, and not all of our abilities line up perfectly, so it's not going to be about keeping up everything 100% of the time, because it's not feasible. And on a target dummy, it's not feasible. So that means in a real group situation where you're fighting a boss and you have to shield and do mechanics, it's going to be even harder. So the Magicka Dragonknight is in a pretty good spot for the average player. It's not played in endgame PvE in terms of competitive environments because they rely on off balance, which is a very precious commodity that everyone needs, and it's very selfish for a Dragonknight to just constantly be consuming it. But in solo play or in the average group, that's not a big issue. In fact, that's a boon to you, and you're going to get tons of resource management. This is going to be very, very easy to sustain. I'm not going to have to do a single heavy attack. I'm going to be running blue food. I'm not running regen sets. So this is going to be a great rotation for the solo player or the person who just does 4-man content without min-maxing. So we do have really hard to manage dots. Again, as always, the main thing we want to do when we get ready to pull is make sure we have our ultimate and then drink a potion. Let that get to about 20 to 30 seconds so that we can drink it in the midst of combat. So we're going to let that run down, and then what we're going to be doing we're going to be managing our buffs. So that's going to be Elemental Drain. In solo. In a group, you're not going to have to do this. So it's going to be a shield there instead, but it's pretty much just going to be our buffs are Flames of Oblivion and Ele Drain. So we're going to start. I'm going to apply Drain, Engulf. Now I'm going to go in, place my dots. I'm not going to cast my ultimate until I get all of my abilities up. Here I'm going to do 5 whips, and then once I get my 5th whip, I'm going to place my banner, apply all my dots once again, and now a lot of this is going to be watching what abilities need to be reapplied. So again, not everything lines up, but usually you want to be getting every other rotation, you want to be getting 3 whips, and then every third rotation, you want to get 5 whips in a row, and that means you're doing your rotation properly. So that's kind of the flow of how this is going to go. I'm kind of just watching what buffs need to be reapplied, what don't. Here I'm going to get 3 whips again, or 2 because I need to reapply Ele Drain, apply Blockade, and then go into whip spam once again. So I'm going to get 5 whips off on this bar once again. So I got 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it's time to go back, place all of our dots, Engulfing Flames, Burning Embers. Now we're going to get 2 whips again, then apply our buffs, bar swap, get 2 whips, reapply Engulf and Burning, get 3 more whips, Blockade of Storms, reapply our buffs, and now we're pretty much done already. So I'm just going to finish with the whip. But so the way that this works is there is kind of a rhythm to it. So when we're first pulling, our priority number 1, as the thing says, is to get everything running. So we have a lot of dots. We got Engulfing Flames, that's 10. Burning Embers, that's 10.5. Then we have Blockade, that's 8. Rearming Trap is 12. It's going to be 15, though, because it has that 3-second arm time in between each. So we're going to treat this as 13, or as 15. Eruption will be 18, and then Flames of Oblivion will be 15. So we have a lot of awkward timers in here, but the way that this is going to work is kind of how we saw, is that we're going to pull, we're going to do our Trap Beast, Eruption, Blockade, and we're already going to have Flames and Elemental Drain running. Then once we get the final ability on this bar running, we're going to bar swap, do Engulfing Flames, and then Burning Embers. Then we're going to do Whip Spam. You should be able to get 5 of these off, because remember that Blockade lasts 8 seconds, and this is the last thing we cast on this bar when we're first pulling. That means when we go bar swap, 1 second is going to go to Engulfing Flames, another second to Burning Embers, and then another 5 seconds go to Flame Lash. Then, upon the 8th second of Blockade, we're going to bar swap back and reapply it. Then, usually how it's going to work is on the first time we bar swap back, we're going to reapply Rearming, Eruption, and Flames of Oblivion. Then, we're going to bar swap back, reapply our Engulfing Flames, Burning Embers, Elemental Drain, do 2 whips in that free time. Then we're going to go back and only do Blockade, because we're going to treat these as 16-second durations. So Blockade is 8, and we're going to act like these all last 16. So this is 15, this is 15, and this is 18. So we're going to kind of have some going more, and we're going to overcast some, and then we're going to undercast some. But that way we get a more fluid, easier to digest rotation where every other bar swap on our back bar, we're either going to do 1 Blockade of Storms and then be done, or we're going to do Blockade, Trap, Flames of Oblivion, and then Eruption, and then go back to our front bar. So every time we're on our front bar, we always are going to cast Engulfing Flames and Burning Embers. On the first one, we'll get 5 whips, and on the second time we're on our back bar, we'll get 3 whips, sometimes 2 if we need to reapply Elemental Drain. So that should kind of give you an understanding of how to approach the situation. Again, it's like a rhythm. So every other rotation on our back bar, it's either going to be Blockade of Storms and then bar swap, or it'll be all of these buttons and then bar swapping. And then in our front bar, the rhythm is apply Engulfing Flames and Burning Embers always. On the first rotation, we'll get 5 lashes, and then on the second time we're on this bar, we'll get 3 or 2 depending on Elemental Drain. And then the way that we discern our ultimate cast is only cast it when you have all of your buffs running, or you need resource management because that Battle Roar passive. So again, this is kind of hard to understand, but you need to just practice, practice, practice. Luckily, it's not as hard as the Magicka Nightblade. There's no requirements of weaving, although you should be light attacking in between all of these abilities. We noticed my Magicka Sustain had no problems whatsoever because that Flame Lash has no cost when I'm attacking off-balance targets. That's why we run Blockade of Storms. In a group, you're going to have that available to you, or you can help with it yourself. So Magicka Dragonknight is hard to learn. It's like this big mountain that you need to climb where you have to understand, okay, I need to get this rhythm down. It's like learning a new dance, sort of. It's really hard. You're fumbling around. You're really frustrated because you can't learn the rhythm. But the more and more you practice, the more and more it starts to make sense. You're like, okay, you get like this metronome in your head. What am I doing? Where do we stand? Where are the lyrics, so to speak, speaking in metaphor of where am I lining up in sync with this rotation? Because it's very rhythmical. It's not going to change. There's no execute. It's very, very rhythmical. You're just going boom, 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 boom. Like verse 1, verse 2, verse 1, verse 2, because each of these bars has 2 iterations that we'll be doing. How we talked about every second bar swap, we only do Blockade. Every first bar swap, we do all 4. Every first time we're on our bar, we always do Engulfing and Embers. Sometimes we'll get 5 lashes, sometimes we'll get 3. So it's discerning where do you stand in the song of the DPS rotation or the ballad or whatever you want to call it. What is the rhythm? Where do you stand? And then when you're in a real fight, where you have tons of mechanics, that's where it becomes even harder, because now you have to learn the dance, so to speak, of the Dragonknight, but now you have to learn the dance in different environments. When you got shit being thrown at you, you got people booing, stuff like that, so you have to change up that dance, maybe shield, maybe block, maybe dodge, and then regain your foot or your bearing, and then continue with that dance. So always keep that rhythm kind of idea in your head. So hope this has helped. I know it's kind of hard to understand. You're just going to have to practice, practice, practice. Hopefully this has given you a visual representation of how to approach that situation. But again, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.